No, my Wi-Fi is slow.
Yeah, it is.
Good morning and welcome to the morning show, everybody. Thank you all for joining. We'll get this thing rolling here after I do a little bit of housekeeping. We need to thank our sponsors for allowing us to bring you guys these shows. Elka Suspension, the leader. You know, if you're not running Elkas, you need to get on board because they're dominating every class everywhere you go. I mean, remember, if you need to go into the sand dunes, racing, whatever it is, UTVs, get your Elka shocks. So then we also have GBC tires. You know, they're doing a great job in the industry with dominating basically the GNCC. A lot of the desert stuff is all GBC tires. You can also use your UTV. I have a set on my truck. So they're wearing really good. They run nice. So check them out. Yeah, and Corey Ellis is here on the show, so I'm really buttering it up, you know, but that's okay. We also need to thank DBR Racing Products. They do a great job with building products for your ATV, skid plates, Nerf bars, ECU holders, things like that, all the little gadgets that you need to make your machine work. Gentlemen, thank you so much for showing up on the morning show. We have Kyle Gross, the father of Braxton Gross. You know, Kyle's been around the industry many years, a pro-am rider and a pro rider for a short stint. And he has a son that's knocking on the door for the World Off-Road Championship Series title. We have Joe Tolle from ATV On Demand, UTV On Demand, and Corey Ellis, a former national champion and GBC. What is your title there at GBC, Corey? Owner, operator, runner?
Director of Off-Road Brands.
All right. Well, director of off-road stuff. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. One of the things that we got going on is the start of the season. Works has been into 2 rounds already. Kyle, you've been at both of those rounds. You can give us a little bit more insight. The big news is Bo Barron is not the points leader.
He's tapping on their doors, though. That's for sure. He's right there. The beginning of the season was good. That first race at Taft, I mean, they were Braxton and Travis and Bo. It was a battle the whole time. It was a great race. And even Colin Webster, I mean, he was only 30 seconds back. Probably he was right there. Cole Fryer was there. Cody and Kinney were both right there too. So, I mean, it was a good race the whole time. Travis just held it a little more wide.
Yeah, that's what it takes. Yeah. There was a mishap at Glen Helen. I know we talked a little bit about it yesterday. It was an unfortunate something in the course that maybe shouldn't have been, but it's hard to say at this point what exactly happened. But
yeah, I mean, the start was good. Braxton was in second behind Bo, and I just think Braxton at Glen Helen, they have these plastic road barriers that kind of keep the racers off of the road. And I think, you know, I don't know if it was in the course or if Braxton maybe veered to the left or to the right to try to get out of the dust. And then he just hit it straight on, fourth gear wide open, never saw it. So he bounced. I mean, thank God he's only 17 years old. He flew like a monkey over it and rolled out of it, but it could have been a lot worse for sure. So
wow, that's crazy stuff. Corey, have you raced anything with the works in a while?
I did race Glen Helen in the plus 30A class, which was the moto before the pro and pro-am.
How did you like the course up there at Glen Helen?
It was the normal, to me, it was normal Glen Helen course. You know, they ran the moto track, the REM track, and then short course track, and kind of tied them all together with some washes. I hadn't raced the works race there, I think, in 2 years, but it was, normal Glen Helen. It was, track conditions were really good for my race. It wasn't too dusty. Wasn't really that rough. It had a little bit of chop, but nothing too bad while we were out there. I was surprised. It was, for having the bikes and everything running the same weekend, it was surprisingly good.
What's going on the GNCC side or the East Coast portion of the world? I know that they're preparing for the regular season with all these locals. Have you got to race a cross country race back there? And what do you think of the competition back there?
I raced one, I guess it was 2022. I raced one, and it took me about a half a lap to remember why I raced 1 year of GCC and never raced one again. Those guys are gnarly, and it's so much different than anything, you're on the West Coast. It's not comparable. It's still an ATV, but it's totally different. And then Ironman, the last 2 years, I've raced a team race with a couple guys from Yamaha and Walker Fowler's mechanic, Mark Notman, and we each did a lap. And every time I do that, it reminds me just like, why am I out here? This is not fun for me. But those guys love it. They enjoy it, and they rip at it. And I got to give all those guys a lot of props, whether they're, the average, sportsman guy out there having fun or the pros. I mean, those guys love it. They do it, but that's just not my bag, man. But
if I remember correctly, you didn't really like to run the high speed West Coast stuff either.
Yeah, I just was never. Every time I went to a Grand Prix, it seemed like I either crashed or I broke down. So I was never like a big Grand Prix guy. And then I never raced a works race till about 4 years ago. That was the first time I ever raced a works race. Just because it was to me, it was always like a Grand Prix kind of, and I never did good at them, so I didn't want to go. But I have a lot of fun when I go to work. So now, it's cool. It's something different. I think probably because I'm not as serious as I used to be. I'm there to have fun. So I enjoy the works races now. I just got to get out there and find time more.
Right. What I'm going to ask this broad question to all of you, and I we'll get an answer from everybody. It looks to me, just from the start of the season, that the entries across the board are going to be up everywhere. They seem to be up at works. I already know that you're going to have a number of guys, a full line in the cross country series, and it looks like there's more pros in the MX. How do you guys feel about that? We're going to start with Joe because he's been so quiet and patient over there, and hasn't said any. He hasn't yelled yet, so we're doing pretty good.
So the question is, what's the reason for it?
No, what do you think about the fact that it seems like a resurgence and that the entries are all up?
I think it's just more. I always come at it from the same angle. To me, I think it's just more counterproof that the manufacturers don't know as much as they say they know, or they're just not being as honest, that there's more interest in sport quads than they want to admit. And shove it.
Kyle, since you've been at the 2 first rounds of works, what do you think about the larger gate?
I mean, there's what's amazing is the women's pro class. I don't know if you saw the amount of girls that were on that line, but the women's pro, I think there was 10 women's pro out there at the last race. Which is amazing for that side of the pro class, and Works is doing some really good payouts for the female pros, which it even brought a girl from the East Coast out here to race against the West Coast girls. And that was really awesome. And the guys, I think they had 10 at Glen Helen too in the pro class, and even the amateur racing. There's the only thing I do see is the youth, like the 70s and the 90s, that there's a little drop off there, which I don't know if it's just parents not bringing their kids out or what it is, but the mass majority of amateur racers, it's a lot busier at the works races for sure.
Well, the pro line is always tough and has been tough the last 5 or 6 years. Sometimes we were down to, 5 pros, but to get 10, that's a good start.
Yeah.
Corey, what are you seeing in the overall in the industry? You have a broader look than all of us, I would assume, because you get to deal with a little bit of everybody.
Yeah, as far as the one thing that I kind of judge it a little bit off of, but you always can't go off of, is sponsorships. We got a record number of applicants this year for sponsorship, and that's UTV and and ATV, but the ATV side was definitely up more than it has been. So that's a good sign. You know, we're seeing more sponsorships. So it could be us getting a little more market share, but also on the other hand, I feel like it's also you know, more racers. From what I remember, I heard as far as GNCC last year was they were up on ATV, but the majority of the reason why they were up was for them was youth. Not that the big bikes dropped off, but the youth was what was making the difference. The big bikes were, I think, kind of similar what they were the year before, but the youth was actually up. And you go there, and there's a ton of youth racers, which is, you know, we sponsor youth racers, and we look at it as, you know, we like sponsoring youth racers. We like seeing youth racers because, you know, without the youth, it's harder to get the people, you know, that get up and move up to the bigger bikes for the future. So, you know, when there's a lot of youth racers, that's a good sign for the future, I think.
Being that you've been around a long time, and if I remember correctly, you were one of the first guys to have a hybrid 4-stroke. I remember talking to you at a stadium race when you went out and won it. And what do you think of the Walsh idea of building a hybrid frame that will fit? You can buy the motor mounts to fit all of your modern 4-stroke motors. What do you think of that?
You know, I mean, I think there's a place for it. The thing, you know, the reason why all the hybrid stuff started was because we were riding bikes that were 10 years old that were no longer manufactured. You know, the frames broke back then. That you couldn't ride a stock frame for very long. I mean, without gusting it or fixing it. So there was definitely a need then for an aftermarket chassis. The frames now, like a you know, a YFZR frame, you can get 100, 200 hours out of them unless you know, smack a tree or something. Their things are built pretty darn good. You know, I like having that option to, you know, to get if the frame is better or stronger, but got to look at why you're changing it. You know, if you want to go buy a dirt bike and then buy a quad, I mean, that's quite a big expense. And the bikes go so good now from the factory that, you know, the biggest thing I would say is the reason I would think you'd want a hybrid frame or an aftermarket motor would be if you want to do a 2-stroke, just because this 2-stroke motor is cheaper to maintain and run. You know, to me, that would be the biggest benefit of running something that's a hybrid, is going back to a 2-stroke just to save money, to keep those people out there longer, or that might not be able to afford a 4-stroke when it blows up, and a 2-stroke so much cheaper to maintain.
Right. Kyle, what do you think? Because the hybrid rule went into effect last year on the West Coast. What's your opinion of that? What Walsh is trying to build?
The Walsh, I'll go back to the works thing, but the Walsh setup is definitely a nice build. I don't know if you've actually seen one, but it is pretty crazy how nice he builds them. The family that Braxton is with right now over in West Virginia, they have their son races in a schoolboy class, like a schoolboy junior. It's like a 250 Honda motor inside of that chassis. And it is, it's a nice build. I mean, it's a crazy build. And then they have another one that's got a 450. So when he does the local, because over there, they race like every weekend over there. They're somewhere racing. It's awesome. And so he has one that's the 450 dirt bike motor in it. And Braxton rode it last week, and he says it turns so good. It's just the geometry on it is totally different than what we're used to with the Hondas. I mean, the hybrid thing is awesome, but it's super pricey to do. We were going to build one last year for works, and then it was just going to be too much money to buy, like Corey said, buy a full dirt bike, you know, do everything. It was just not practical for us. And I mean, if I was any dad in the industry, like getting into it with his kids, I think I would probably just go with a Yamaha, because, I mean, the only reason we're with Hondas is because I have 20 years of closets full of cylinders and pistons and bottom ends and parts for Hondas. And that's why we really are still with them, is just because I can afford to do it that way. But if I was anyone else, I'd probably just be on a Yamaha if we were starting out, or a young kid coming up. I think it'd be the best route. The hybrid thing is just super pricey.
So one of the things that I'm not sure that you guys are catching on to, Walsh is building frames so that you can adapt a KTM, a Honda, a Suzuki, a Kawasaki, so that you don't have to buy a new frame. All you have to do is buy a new set of motor mounts.
Huh.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean that's and I say, and talk about hybrid, like Kyle just said, I think there's two different kind of categories there too. If you're talking about a youth racer or you're talking about a 450 racer, the youth racers, there's not a lot of youth quads out there. So I mean, I definitely see a need for that, because there's not a lot of Raptor 250s left out there to someone to go buy, or Raptor 125s. So there's not anywhere for that transitional market for the kids that are really small to get on a bigger bike. So, I mean, there is kind of a need for that for sure. But yeah, as far as Walsh making motor mounts to go into a 450 frame for another motor, that's fine, dandy. But you also have to go find a dirt bike somewhere too. So what's cheaper, or a lot of people right now are based off budget. So you got to look at that.
Joe, you had a point.
All I was going to add in was that, just expanding upon the fact that it's not just you have to buy the whole chassis, and I don't want to misspeak, but from what Mike was saying, it's like you can buy every piece of that chassis individually. I don't know if it's like going from a YFZ 450R to a KTM 300, if it's just going to be a motor mount swap, you might have to replace like a back section of the frame. I'm not 100% sure on that. It's not quite that simple, but I don't think it's not nearly as complicated or expensive as getting the whole motor. I think with what he's doing, it's cool because the buy-in's going to be rough. You could go buy a new 450, find somebody who wadded up their 250F, and, buy the engine. Hopefully you don't have to buy the whole bike. So in the long run for a youth parent, it's kind of less expensive because the platform you start with, you can continue on with once the kid is old enough to go to the 450 class. So the buy-in kind of sucks, but in the long term, it's going to be, I think, cheaper than build a hybrid for your kid and then start over and build a 450 for him when he's 16 or she's 16.
Yeah, I like it. Go ahead, Corey.
I really like that Mike is transitioning to the Yamaha stuff now instead of Suzuki, because he was running Suzuki platform there for a long time, and that Suzuki platform is so expensive. Like, Suzuki parts are just astronomical right now. To get plastic, to get anything that's Suzuki parts, bearings, bolts, anything that you buy from Suzuki is 4 or 5 times as much as a Yamaha part. So that's a good deal that Mike's, if he's doing it with the Yamaha platform now, and plus with the frame, being modular, like you said, if you need a lower rail that's different motor mounts or whatever, that's cool. You can buy that and just change that one piece, maybe. And so kind of mix and match to build something out of an existing bike is a good deal.
Yeah, I really liked the fact that you could have a multiple setup for your deal. You could have a Yamaha, Suzuki, whatever it is. And, your spindles, your A-arms, none of that stuff is changing. You're just changing the center portions and rocking and rolling, maybe an exhaust, some of the, I don't think any of the exhausts are exchangeable, but maybe you just change the header, your muffler still is the same. So for your youth and some of your 450 younger classes, I think it's a good deal because there's only one bike and you're not able to buy Yamahas in super abundance because they only make so many of the year.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of rumors that people can't get their bike, their 450 OEM Yamaha, until mid-season, sometimes closer to the end because they didn't bring enough of them in.
Yeah, I know they're assembling as many as they can. And they did up production, I think, last year or the year before from a couple of years ago. So they do see the need. It's just a matter of, I think, what they have parts for to build, and also, they look at, I believe they look at, what they're making return on, and they have to factor that into, what it costs and what they're going to make out of it, as well.
But the platform hasn't changed since 2009.
Yeah.
They're killing it because they're not having to do any R&D. All they're doing is just remanufacturing stuff, and for that to be the case, they have to be just killing it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they're having to wait till half the season, they're doing better than me, because I've been waiting for 10 years to get my Honda, and it still hasn't showed up yet.
Don't hold your breath.
Yeah. I don't think that I don't think it's coming. I'll just, you might as well think blue.
Yeah.
I'm realistic.
Yep.
It's a shame.
Braxton.
Go ahead.
I say I kind of see the writing in the wall for Braxton if he wants to continue. I mean, there'll be a point where we will have to swap over. It's inevitable that it's gonna have to happen, at some point.
So I'm going to hit you guys with this one, because you probably haven't been following a lot of Joe and I's conversation and the excitement that Joe and I are. We're excited about this machine. It hasn't hit the US yet, but it's probably going to come, and we have to thank Joe for it, because he's really been pushing KO. What do you guys think about that 300 that's in Europe right now? It's a mid-level machine. It's a Raptor 250 killer. It's fuel injected. It looks like a release sound.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, the word is maybe, but it looks like it's a Raptor 250 killer. What are your thoughts on another manufacturer coming in with a mid-level machine? Corey, we'll start with you.
I think if it's for youth stuff, that's awesome. I know, you look at the little guys, and a lot of those guys are running the Apexes and stuff. So, I mean, not having something that's not a Japanese bike for the youth kids, I think is a good thing. The biggest thing, like always, is if you can get parts and what it costs to keep the thing maintained, and also what's going to take to keep the thing, running, maintained, and all that as well. If you have something too expensive, it wears people out and they quit coming. So if you want to grow the sport, it needs to be something where you can get the parts in a reasonable amount, and you can also, the thing holds up too. You're not rebuilding the thing every weekend. So if it's a good machine, that's a good platform to start with, and people can make them last and they work, and it's feasible for them to, keep paying for parts and stuff and racing. I think it's a good deal, because like I said, I've been kind of looking for Raptor 250 for a clean one, and they're hard. I mean, they pop up once in a while, but they're not like they used to be.
And when they do pop up, they're grossly expensive.
Yeah.
Kyle, go ahead.
On that youth, I think it is important for them to bring another, if they could make it happen, I think it'd be awesome. And as long as they can have that age range, because I mean, what we struggle with is, that they have that 16-year-old gap where they can't get onto the 450 till they're 16, even though a lot of these kids, they're 5 foot, 6 foot tall now at 16, and they're, hitting the knees on the Raptor 250s at that age. But if they had a bike in between that 200 to 300 cc that they would allow for 15, 14, 16 years to ride it, I think that'd be amazing. I think it'd be great for the sport if they could come up with something, for sure.
I want to switch gears a little bit here. I love talking about that. And Joe, I know it's a maybe. I'm excited. I'm hoping that it's not a maybe. I'm hoping it's a for sure. But I want to get a perspective from you, Kyle. You come from the industry as a racer, developed through the works pro amateur level, got into the pro section for a little bit. Now you're a dad of a racer that's went through the same process, and you've seen the industry. How is that affecting you with not allowing is the wrong word, but participating in your son's racing career? How's that affecting things? Because you see no financial future.
Yeah. K2 is a big sponsor of it. That's for sure. I mean, I feel that, we spent a full season. We went back east and raced a little Raptor 250 that we put a 150R dirt bike motor in. And the amount of youth in that class is the coolest thing to go to a race like that. And there's 25 kids on the first row. There's 25 to 30 kids on the second row. and they're like little pros. You know what I mean? They are that next level of being the Walker Fowlers or the Bryson Neals. Those kids, I mean, they haul butt. We went over there thinking, oh, we're going to be so fast. And it took 8 races before Braxton even got close to getting on the podium back there. And, over here, we built the bike, we trusted it for months and months, and then we brought it over there. And I was like, oh, my kid's going to whip everyone's butt. You get over there and you're just like, oh, it's a completely different style of racing. It's the same for them to come over here and go kind of a little bit higher speeds. And, but I think that the youth, like with Braxton getting to do the 150 class, with Braxton getting to do the Raptor 250s for about 4 years here at Works, it has made him a very good racer with all that knowledge and getting to do those events,
But is it giving you some type of wanting him to do something else because there is no financial future, or are you still 100% supportive to develop, to input all this time? I'm going to get to you, Joe, and Corey also on these.
For me, when I was growing up, my parents weren't into racing. They loved to go to we went to Glamis. We did the sand dune thing. All I wanted to do as a kid was race. For Braxton, I think for him to do it as long as he wants to do it, I'll back him for sure. Cause it's just in I'm not saying it's in our blood, but it's in our blood, but it's something we do as a family, and I'll back it as long as I can afford it. Cause I do love it. And you meet so many, some of the families we've met on the East Coast, like Braxton is there right now for 3 weeks training and riding. And that the family that is over there that takes care of Braxton while we can't be there. They're like, he's like, the dad is like my brother. We met so many good families over there that if I wasn't stuck in California, I'd probably be moving back there. But no, I'll support it as long as I can, and I think that's what any dad would do. They're going to try to do it as long as they can. And if he loves it, then why not,
Right. Joe, you have a little bit different perspective because you don't have any children, but you see a lot of young people and you've had a lot of friends throughout the industry. How do you view that topic in this scenario?
And that is with no financial payoff to racing ATVs. I've done martial arts for 30 years, and had I started a martial arts school, perhaps there would have been a payday for it. Perhaps, all the years of training and work would have resulted in money and an income. But obviously I went a little different direction than that. But that, even though there wasn't a paycheck involved with it, the life lessons, the experience, just invaluable, just a tremendous benefit to it. So, even though you might not make 7 figures like a Supercross star, there's still a lot of benefit to it. And it's, sport is mostly for fun. If you look at most sports, basketball, baseball, football, everybody who ever plays a ball sport, your chances of making it to that pro level and making big money, it's almost non-existent in terms of how many people play and how many people make it to that level. So, there's so much benefit in sport and competition. Just because there's not a chance to make millions of dollars, I don't think that you can take away from the benefits and the life experience.
Corey, you came from a time when there was money in the sport to a time when it's a struggle. Well, I think you started when there was no money and then rolled into a time when there was money and have seen it change. You have young children. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, when I started racing, there was, that was right when the money stopped, but I never even saw that. So when I was growing up racing, it was never about the money. It was more of a social, we enjoyed racing. My parents took me to all the races, but we enjoyed going as a family. It was what we did as a family. My parents, like what Kyle said, my parents were good friends with a lot of people at the races. Still talk to people from the races this day, even though I've been racing in almost 20 years as far as nationals. So it's the social side of it, as far as like I would say a parent, that's why the parents enjoy seeing their kids race. They enjoy that's your family, that's your friends when you go to the races. That's why people keep going, is kind of the social aspect, I think, along with competition. But like I said, when I started racing, it wasn't about trying to make money, and then the money came in. But since there was no money when I started, I would have liked to see the money stay in, but it was kind of not that I didn't anticipate it staying in, but it was bad when it left. But it's kind of gotten back to that. There's only a few people making money, and those select few people, the Walkers, the Chads, the Joels. There's a few people like that still make money, but you can't go in expecting to be those guys. Like Joe said, it's there's so many people that play stick and ball sports, but nobody ever makes it. It's the same with our sport. You have to go in realizing that it's not going to be a lucrative future. Cars are going by. A lucrative future that you're gonna retire on. There's not, if you're one of those people, that's awesome, but you can't go in thinking that. With having kids now, and even myself still racing a little bit, I do. It takes a lot. I mean, Kyle knows it takes a lot of money to go racing. I mean, if my kid or my son wants to race, I mean, I'll do what I can to make it happen, and I'll try to figure it out. But even for me to go race, I got to buy parts. I got to do this. I still have a lot of people to help me out, but I still spend money to go, and quite a bit of money to go. And that's part of the reason why I don't race all the time or every weekend. Not only just the time, but also the financial aspect of it. So, but I still go to the races because I enjoy going to the races. I enjoy seeing people that I know. So it's not always about money, but it's also about, having fun and, seeing your friends.
It's true. I mean, I did it a lot of years for just to go hang out and be part of the group of friends that you have and the race family that you have, because that's kind of what it is. People offering you dinner and, feeding you a sandwich because they know that you didn't take care of yourself. When I was with Doug, that happened to us a lot because Doug and I were very piss poor planners at taking care of ourselves. But that's neither here nor there. I love the races and I love the whole sport. We're gonna shift into another topic. I just got to get this off my chest. Supercross was last night in Glendale, Arizona, and the only guy that is legally a what's the word I'm looking for, Joe?
I don't know, because we're talking legality. I don't know where you're going.
He's legally handicapped.
Oh, Ken Roxon?
Yeah, he legally has a legal deficiency, and he went out and won the Supercross on a motorcycle that the doctors feel that he can't even ride. And what do you guys think of that? We'll start with you, Corey.
What's going on with him? That he can't ride? I haven't heard this.
Okay, so his grip, since they hurt his arms, is legally he could be disabled in normal society and not work. He has a deficiency in his hands and his arms that could make him legally disabled.
Doesn't look like it to me from what I saw last night.
I think the guy's a freaking stud. If you come back from that injury, it's just incredible. But
I think there's probably 8 or 10 guys that can win a Supercross right now. It just depends on who gets the whole shot. I mean, I think I saw a stat that was showing pretty much whoever's in the top 3 had the best chance of winning the Supercross right now. As far as when they come around the first turn, there's not. I mean, Jet's kind of an exception. He's been moving up, but even the 2 races he's won, he's whole shot at both of them. I think those guys right now are so close. It's whoever's night it is and whoever gets the best start is what it comes down to. If you get a bad start, you're not passing all those guys. You're not coming from the back. You're not coming from sixth to win. So I mean, Ken got the whole shot. I mean, Ken has won 2 heat races, both of them he whole shotted this year. Nobody's been able to pass him when he gets a good start. He's also charged up, so he's been doing good, but I don't think you're winning from the back or winning from mid pack this year.
Even though he's on an antique motorcycle too.
The
way I look at those guys on those bikes is they change them every year, but they run the same forks, they run the same shocks every year. They might fine tune them, but the chassis change a little bit here and there. The electronics change a little bit here and there, but it's nothing. They're not building some crazy motor getting way more horsepower than they had 3 or 4 years ago. They have all the power they want, and they halftime they detune them a little bit so they can get more traction. So really, he's not at a disadvantage. He's probably at a little bit of advantage because they're not changing stuff. It's not like all of a sudden, oh, we got a new bike this year and we're trying to figure out how to make it work. He's the same bike he was riding when he won the championship last time.
Right.
Just fine tuning it. So it's something comfortable to him. It's not changing a whole lot.
Joe, we're going to go to you.
No, that's a good perspective. I mean, I've been sitting here kind of bagging on the fact that Suzuki's not seem to be doing anything. But yeah, that's a great point. I've wondered how he's managed to compete, on a bike that's, I think, a 2016 platform. But Corey's right. They're not getting significantly faster. I mean, I think the KTM this year is putting out 61 horsepower from the factory, and the Suzuki, I think, if I recall correctly, is putting out around 56. But and it's a great turning bike. Like every shootout every year, they talk about how the Suzuki is probably the best turning bike in the class. So, that would explain a lot of why it does well in Supercross. And Kenny's a talented guy, and he's making up for it in leg strength because he's got to kickstart that thing.
Go ahead, Kyle.
They said the veteran's winning, and it's like, he's only 29 years old. Not fair.
That's old by Supercross standards.
Oh, gosh, it's crazy. I don't know if you guys know the name Billy Lanovich. He's a 40-year-old. He's racing 250. He qualified for the main last night, and he got top 20, which was awesome. He's from Ramona, where I live. So Billy's like one of my old school buddies that grew up here in San Diego, Ramona.
And he's 40?
40, yeah, or 41.
Stud.
And, yeah, I don't know if you guys. He's got long hair, and he's qualified for 2 mains, and he's doing just all the West Coast stuff. It's pretty awesome. So he can still rip. He's actually done some training with Braxton on dirt, because we ride dirt bikes too, and he's a good guy. But Roxon, I mean, my favorite's I like Plessinger the best. I love his attitude. I love his personality. I don't know if it's just a show like for the cameras, but that guy just really seems like a down to earth, like a guy you'd want to, be friends with, really cool guy.
And it's really cool because, like, when they interviewed him, like, after last night when he won the heat race, like, that guy gets a pop from the crowd like a pro wrestler. He's out here waving his hands, and the crowd's getting hyped. It's like The Rock's coming out, back in the 90s. Like, that dude is loved. It's cool. It's great for the sport.
Yeah.
Why do you think we don't have personalities in the ATV world like that are just crowd grabbing or spectator grabbing?
Because
ATVs lack the platform.
Because Tim Showman's just selling houses now.
Anybody that road works and came out when Tim was racing, he was the showman. He made it great.
Oh shit.
I think he's the only guy to crash on multiple parade laps.
What was that?
I think he's the only guy to crash on multiple parade laps.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I think he crashed in the water jump one year in Havasu. He had an issue somewhere else. The concrete K rails, they used to use those for dividers at Speed World, and instead of going around it, he just went over it. And the rest of the guys are like, no, thank you. Granted, he was back in the pack, but he did it. It was pretty awesome stuff back in the day, No, in the chat, they're talking about Janusa and Rastrelli having more personality. Janusa's got that New Jersey kind of attitude, where Rastrelli's just a more outgoing, enjoyable kind of guy to talk to. Not that Janusa isn't, but Janusa is kind of almost like a chip on his shoulder. I don't know if you guys have got to talk to him.
No.
Corey, have you spent much time with Janusa at all, or Rastrelli?
No, I haven't spent much time with him. We went to dinner. It's probably been 8 or 10 years ago. We went to dinner and with Chad and Borich, and Janusa was there. And that's really the one time I've ever met him. And that's true. I think that was like I said, like 10 years ago. And someone said something like, "Hey, this is Corey," and he's like, "Who?" And he didn't know who I was. But no, I haven't been around. I haven't been to a motor race in a long time. I'm looking forward to trying to get to one this year, it looks like. So yeah, no, I'm curious to meet some of those guys a little bit, or talk to them some more if I run into them at the race. So, but yeah, I think there's always been people with personalities at all the series, whether it be the works or, look at Bo's personality. What's around him is just having the chance, I think, to showcase that stuff where, the Supercross guys are on TV, and, the ATV guys and stuff are, just doing their thing, and they don't really get that chance to get highlighted like that maybe as much. So you don't see it. But, and even the Supercross guys, I think I heard they were I heard an interview, and Wygant was talking about it. They're trying to get those guys to go on their interviews and not just, do the dungy and just rattle through all your sponsors on the podium, actually have some personality. They're trying to get them to do that, to be more interesting, to get the crowd fired up more, like a WWE or something like that. And I don't know if you guys remember Travis Preston. I always remember him the first time he ever won a Supercross, I think it was, or maybe it wasn't, but him winning Anaheim on a Honda, it was the funniest podium interview I've ever heard in my life. And that made me a fan of his, like, that night. Like, it was the best podium speech ever. Just, he was so real, down to earth. It almost kind of reminded me of Kenny, or of Cowboy Kenny now. But, that night I became a Travis Preston fan, for a couple of years there, because just that one interview. It's just, I think those guys getting that chance to get up there and do that, and also open up. So that's one of the things, is when they get up on the podium, you just got to be more lively and show your true colors a little bit more. I think Walker's really good with that too. Walker gets like that up on the podium sometimes. He gets up there and starts rambling on about something, and he gets pretty funny too. So it's just, I think having that chance to show that side of yourself makes that better for the sport and for those riders.
One of the guys I've got to deal with is Adam McGill, and it's taken me a long time to get to where I had him on the show, and it was great. But he works with riders, and he's worked with a young lady, Chloe Harper. I don't know if you guys got to listen to her episode. She's a character, but she's got it down. She understands that she has to have that personality to draw the fan in, just like Adam has gotten, taught her how to do it, so that there's chemistry, and you become a fan just because of the way that she's talking to you and the way that the time that she spends with you, even though you're not there, it's through a show, or you're watching her interview. It's really cool that somebody has taken it in our industry and understands it, because you don't see it being taught very often. You know, I mean, how often when you got on the podium, Corey, I remember you guys having pieces of paper stuffed in your glove so that you could go up there and remember what you had to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's different it's everybody has a different personality, and it's, you gotta, realize that it's a hard thing when you're in that moment to realize, a lot of times, sometimes when a couple times you get up on the podium, you're at a shock and you don't, you've wanted to be up there, but you get up there and you don't know what to say or what to do. It's like Talladega Nights. What do I do with my hands? You get up there and you don't know what to do. But as you get up there more, you get more comfortable and stuff. And it's, you gotta have that personality to grow, especially with the social media that's going on right now. Everything's broadcasted, whether whether it's someone in the crowd that's live streaming it, or, GNCC, is a stream now where, maybe 15 years ago it wasn't. So you never saw a podium interview, so it's changed a lot with social media now, where you have to have that personality to really connect with the fans more than you did in the past, where, people came by your tent and got your autograph, and you talk with them then, and they kind of got to see you and see your personality and stuff. So it's definitely, you have to be more aware of what's going on, and you have to open up, and sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's easy. It also depends on the guy. Sometimes that just comes out of people, and other people you can't get them to do it. So,
hey, in the beginning of Eichner's career, he wouldn't go talk. I had to go talk because he wouldn't do it.
yeah.
They wanted him to come up to the tower and talk about whatever, and he wouldn't go, so I would go, because one of us had to. We had to get that the talk about the ATV group, because when work started, it was a motorcycle deal, and ATVs were a sideshow. And Doug would go out and beat most of the motorcycles, so it was great. And then he wouldn't go talk. He did at the end of his career, but gosh, for the longest time, it was pulling teeth.
That's Braxton. He'll talk to you one-on-one all day long, but if you put him on the spot, he's like, he doesn't want to do it.
Well, you guys brought up Bo Barron. That guy's personality is infectious, because he's so nice and so personable. And I mean, even when he's cutting, mad at somebody, he's still nice about it to a point. I remember being on the negative end of some of his comments, and they're funny. You're laughing, and he's freaking telling you're an idiot, and it's just funny, I mean, the guy is, he's just a great dude and a lot of fun to be around, even if you're racing against him. It just took us too many years to figure that out, to, be the guy's friend. Don't be his competitor and his enemy, because he's also there to teach anybody that wants to know.
Lenny, you need to interview Bo on a Friday night at a works race about 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Yes, sir, I do. Yes, sir, I do.
For sure.
Because everybody would really, really enjoy that.
Yeah.
I don't think that he does that as much as he did when he was younger. Do you?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I parked a couple trailers down from Glen Hill, and he was having a good time, and he had a crowd of people over at his trailer Friday night when I pulled in at 11 o'clock.
He could be a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
I mean, but the guy's been around racing for what, 40 years?
Yeah. No, Bo is an awesome guy all around, and he has a lot of fun, and he enjoys being at the races. I think he's always very positive. Very positive.
Yeah, I can't see. I had a conversation with him earlier at the end of last year, and I struggled to see the guy walking away from the sport at all. I mean, he said he wasn't going to race this year. He's second in points. He's been on the podium each race. He's still fast enough to run with those guys. and he goes, well, I don't want to go out there and be the guy that stayed too long. Well, you're not that guy right now. So keep racing.
Keep going. Keep going.
Last topic, and then I'll let you guys go enjoy your Sunday. Chad Wienen. I spoke to him briefly in a text message. He's doing better. He plans to get on a bike in the next few days, or maybe a little longer than a few days. But he'll be back on the machine. He seems to be in good spirits. What do you know that I don't know, Corey, or do you know anything at all about his condition or how he's doing?
Well, let's start off. What did he tell you is wrong with him?
He did not tell me anything. He will not give any of that information.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've heard a couple different things, and I don't want to say what's what, but I mean, like you said, only I've heard is only I would say was what he's kind of posted, and it sounds like he's planning on being at Daytona. So I mean, I don't know how bad he got hurt, or it looks like he's therapying and trying to get better. I wish him the best. I hope he's healed up Daytona. I want to see him and Joel, battle with everybody else as well. So I mean, Chad's been hurt pretty good a couple times, and he's always came back. So, and he's a fighter, and he's a tough dude. So he'll be back, and he'll be rolling, before too long.
But he's 38 years old, Corey.
Yeah, but Chad's also in really good shape, and no matter, I think it's people. His characteristic of him is he's a tough guy. I don't think age definitely makes you not bounce back as quick, but he has a never give up attitude, and he's gonna power through it. And he's doing what he loves, and he wants to be out there, and he's gonna make it happen.
Joe, what's your take on this?
I know nothing about the injury other than he's injured. Yeah, I hope we get him back soon. Otherwise, we might have another runaway year with one guy, and that's not what we want to see. Competition is good for the sport. So, wish I had more to say other than hope he's back for round 1 or 2.
I heard from the grapevine that he'll be back and he should be strong. That's what I've heard. There again, I hear a lot of things through the grapevine. We'll talk about another great champion, Walker Fowler. I heard that he's next level, that he has upped his game and wants that title back and is on fire. Corey, I know that you're a Walker Fowler fan and you sponsor him. You could say yay or nay to that. But I have had sources close to where Walker Fowler is that says that he is on fire.
I really haven't heard anything about Walker. I talk to Johnny just about every day, and I know Johnny's kind of down in his area right now, but I don't think they've been riding together or anything. But I really haven't heard much about Walker. I know they've been working on bikes, trying to get him better. Because Walker's always looking for more, from everything on his bike. So I think he kind of finally got his program situated or settled last year. He made a bunch of changes. So I think they're just trying to fine tune stuff. He came out and won a race last year, a couple podiums at the end of the year. So he showed he still has the speed after the injury. And he's just, more time on the bike, and he's probably just getting stronger and stronger. But I really haven't heard much from on my side of anything. I was just kind of waiting until the first race and see what happens. Bryson's always, strong. But I mean, those guys, I mean, you never know. GNCC is one of those things you kind of never know. There's always 3 or 4 fast guys, but anything can happen. It's such a gnarly sport, far as just bikes and, trees and so much stuff out there that anything can happen. I mean, people hit trees, screw up the front end, just all kinds of stuff can happen. Get stuck in a hole, get stuck behind somebody. So it takes, like everything, it takes 3 or 4 races, I think, to see who really is going to be the leaders in the championship. But, I would look for, Walker, Bryson, those 2 for sure. Hunter always does pretty good last couple of years, and he's still getting stronger. Josh Merritt had a really good year last year. So, I mean, there's some people definitely that get up there on the podium. John Galata got hurt last year. He was running good. He's right back riding, so he might be up there as well too. He was showing some real good speed before he got hurt. So
his bike looks, Galato's bike looks a lot like Neil's.
Yeah, it does. It does for sure.
Phoenix on the side of it and everything. I was a little wow. Is there something? Are they starting a ATV GNCC team, or what's the deal?
I don't know. I know Grayson's out there too. We picked up Grayson this year, so Grayson's out there running XC2 again, I believe. So he's doing better. So that Phoenix team, they're really trying to grow that. It looks like grow that GNCC team a little bit. The Ellers are really enjoying GNCC. They started, I think, maybe with GNCC, and they've been there a long time. So they really like the ATVs and like GNCC. So they could definitely be trying to grow that side of the Phoenix racing team.
That'd be great. I mean, we need all the support we can get. I was looking at the motocross layout, and obviously Hetrick is everybody's favorite, but Chad's suspect with an injury. Bryce Ford, if you look at his videos, you look at his development, he's coming on. Janusa did real well. You have a couple of the other guys that are climbing through the ranks. Do you think that we're going to see another contender in the motocross side?
I think Bryce.
Max Lindquist.
Well, Lindquist is always one in my book, but he had a bad year, so I could see him rebounding some, but he's been really quiet, so you don't know what he's got going on.
Maybe he's training really hard.
Go ahead, Corey. I'll say, ever since Thomas retired, there was always kind of that talk. Who's going to be that third place Thomas Brown kind of fill-in guy there for a couple of years, and it kind of thought Max was going to be that guy when Max came in. Max had that really good first year, and then he had some injuries. But it looks like Bryce has became that guy where Bryce is kind of established himself as, top 5, top 3 guy every weekend. And, Bryce is getting closer and closer. He's inching closer to Joel. I think Joel still has pretty much everybody's number. I think Chad's right there too, but Chad being hurt, it looks like Joel might have it a little easy, but I think Bryce might give him a run for his money at a couple of races and could possibly win. But yeah, like Kyle said, Max could find that speed and find that consistency that he's not had the last couple of years. And if he gets those injuries and that might be him, up there running, up there getting closer to run with those guys. It's just time's gonna tell, I think, more than anything.
I got nothing as far as a pick, as far as who's going to move up this year, because I'm more about picking winners in bikes, not winners in racers. But I saw this morning, I was browsing YouTube, and Bryce Ford, he had a video. I'm like, Bryce Ford has a YouTube channel, and it was like, holy crap, this video has 135,000 views. Apparently, he let some dirt bike guys ride his race quad. And he's got about 10,000 subscribers right now, which I have a feeling is going to go up as good as that video is doing. But I know I'm going to go check that out when we get off here, because I'm interested to see how these dirt bike guys do when they jump on a real race machine. And but apparently it must be good, because that video is doing well.
Oh. Yeah, he's charismatic. He's a great kid, and I think that he's going to do well. I think Janus is going to be a little faster than most people think. And Rastrelli's not done. Rastrelli has those moments of greatness where he just puts it down and can make it happen. Nobody said anything about Zach Decker. Got injured. He was running in the podium positions at the beginning of the year when he got hurt. I think Zach is going to come around. You watch his videos from Rip It Up Films, the kid's on fire, and he has a burning desire to be up front. And I think that he's been training with Hetrick quite a bit. So that could you could throw a wrench in the works with Decker also, especially if he's back and healthy. I'm still looking at the cross country thing going, Fowler, Neal, those guys are going to be the two to contend with. Hunter Hart is fast in brief moments, and Galata Jr. Could be one of the guys that says that he's retired.
Yeah,
says that he's retired, but look for him to be on the line as well. I just don't think it goes away like that. He's still young. He's still strong. He's still in shape. He still has his race program put together. I think he's going to come out and do some damage.
Was he top 3? Was he top 3 or top 4 last year in points?
Number
was he 3 or 4?
He was number 3. One of my fan favorites is Josh Merritt. I mean, I see that kid. I call him a kid. How old is he, Corey? He's 25, 26, 27?
Yeah, I think somewhere right in there.
So he's not even a kid anymore. I think he's got extreme talent. I really do. He just got to get his talent where it needs to be up in the front. He
did get on the podium last year. I think once or twice, maybe.
He got a second.
Yeah.
Don't put Adam out of there. Adam can still put down some fast laps though too.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
If he could just keep the Crown Royal put in the cabinet, he'd be good.
I think that he's got Crown Royal in his Camelback.
Yeah.
But
Adam can definitely have a breakout ride here and there for sure. You can never count Adam out. He knows how to win, so he could definitely be up front or possibly even win a race. You just never know with him.
Steven, the guy that's coming up number 8 from the XC2 class, that guy had a stellar year last year. He could be a rookie that runs himself up into the front.
Yeah.
He's got some real talent. There's some. That's what I love about the whole thing. If you look at Works, you look at GNCC, you look at motocross, there are some really talented individuals coming up in the field. I'm hoping that they can challenge the Neals and the Hetrick and the Baron. And, not that I want to see these guys dethroned, but I kind of want to see these guys dethroned just for the sake of the industry. Get a new name on top of the deal.
Yep.
Yeah. Are you going to make it out to any events this year, Lenny? To back east?
Well, Kyle has mentioned something to me that I'm going to explore deeply, because I think that getting out to a GNCC is hugely needed. There's the Legends race that's going to be in Ohio at Briarcliff. That we are quietly working on something for that. If we can pull that off, then it'd be at least to 2 of the events. We got to. I want to go out and I want to talk to those cross country guys face to face. And intermingling with the motocross guys is always important to do. I know most of the Works guys so that I can reach out and talk to them. We definitely need to be more mobile. Corey.
The Florida one, Lenny, would be good because you could get ATV MX and the GNCC all in the same weekend, pretty much, or that same week.
Yeah, that would be pretty badass. It really would. But yes, I have a job. I have 2 jobs, and then I do this on the side. So. And I can't get Joe to send me any money. That's my biggest problem. I'm buttering ATV up on demand all the time. Come on, Joe, help me out. But no, guys, I want to thank you all so much. Kyle, I know it was last minute for you. This isn't your normal thing. You're a father and a former racer. Corey, as always, brother, thank you so much for all that you do for the sport. We really appreciate you, and keep taking care of those guys. We need sponsors like you. Joe, as always, brother, keep making those awesome videos. They're fun to watch and they're very informative. So
yeah, dropped a 24 Raptor test last week. It's doing good. Had a couple GNCC racers ride it. Doug Couric, who works at Sunstar Sprockets, and a young guy named Isaac Hart, who's moving to the B class from the C class this year in GNCC. He wrote it. So got a fresh evaluation from a couple guys who've never ridden a Raptor before, surprisingly, in the 18 years it's been on the market. And got a little input from them as far as their thoughts on could we turn it into a race bike for the woods. And they seemed pretty positive that it definitely has potential and a place to compete in that series. So hopefully going forward the next few months, we might start looking at building a woods racer out of it and seeing how fast it can go against some fully modded 450s.
I think that we need to do that. Gentlemen, have an amazing weekend. Thank you again so much. Corey, it's always a pleasure. Joe, ATV On Demand, UTV On Demand. And remember, if you're looking for a set of tires, Corey's the guy you need to talk to because he's got the best on the market. Thank you, guys. We'll talk to you later. Have a great day.
All right. Okay.
Bye-bye.